Okay, over here at Arts Quest Steel Stacks on Thank You Nature and Gods, a beautiful spring afternoon. I kind of jumped around a little bit in the first part, but right now I want to get into, you mentioned, that you went to college, you're a teacher and everything. Let's get into your background, and your like education background and things like that.
Well, I grew up in the Valley. I moved here when I was 2 years old from Puerto Rico, and I went to the Bethlehem School District my whole life, and I studied at Northampton Fine Arts, which was an awesome experience. A lot of diversity of classes there, and I graduated from there with my associates in fine arts, thankfully, because initially I was going to go to law school, and then I was like, I want to be an artist, and my mom was devastated because she wanted me to buy her a Jaguar, and she knew I couldn't do that if I had an artist salary, which is usually zero. So
there's always the possibility.
Yes. I've made some money off my artwork, but I decided to pursue education. I love working with kids, and so I went to Moravian and graduated from there with my degree in education, and really didn't get the same experience as I did at Northampton, to a totally different world, but the professors were awesome, and it was good to get that certification. So I started teaching right when I graduated. A month after graduating in July, I started teaching at Marvine Elementary School. I was there for a year, teaching art after school and doing a science class with the kids and math tutoring. And then Lehigh Valley Academy picked me up to teach art there. That's a charter school off of Shainersville Road.
Okay.
And that was fun. That was elementary school also. And then a school named Lincoln Leadership Academy called me to bring me on board as their music and art teacher. So I was doing music theory and art for 6th through 9th grade. And then every year they added on another grade because they were a new school. So I left there having taught 5th through 12th grade.
Wow.
Art. And that was an awesome experience. My students were mainly Hispanic, Dominican, African American, Puerto Rican, mostly below poverty level, but the students always said, art makes me feel free. I walk into your room and I feel relaxed, and I feel like I can be myself, and that's really what I wanted to create for them, because I feel like they're so burdened by daily things. Some of them don't even know what they're going to eat. So I always wanted to create a relationship with my students where they could be comfortable. So that's that background. And then I started pursuing working at the Alternative Gallery. I just started doing that now. I'm the director of education there. So we're starting a summer program. Really cheap classes, only $3 each class. But
hey, part of the interview is promoting what is promoting. That's the whole point of an interview.
Yeah, so we're always doing some cool stuff over there. And I also work at the Allentown Art Museum, and we have a new show coming up called Of Heaven and Earth, which is going to be awesome. 500 paintings.
I'll have to stop by there on a Sunday and check it out.
And so right now I feel like I'm starting to live the real life of a struggling artist, because I'm not teaching full time right now. I'm doing the art thing, but I am pursuing art positions, so I might be in your kids' classroom, so watch out.
For some reason, unless the kid is really out of line, I highly doubt that. I could just picture all the kids. Yeah, I love my new teacher.
They tell me all the time, I want to be their teacher. Even the bad ones, I like those. Those are my favorite ones. Those end up being my buddies. So.
Because you always see something good in them, right?
Absolutely. You gotta, pick at the coal to get to the diamond.
Oh yeah. Now, as far as I want to actually jump right into where today's modern world, of whether it's music, whether it's art, especially, I'm a self-published author. I want to jump into that as far as how the day's digital world versus the old days of print. Everything's going digital. Everything's going digital now. Ebooks. And now even more and more authors are going to audiobooks also. How do you see that affecting even people's creativity, and like how they want to do things, like whether it's artists, musicians, writers, whatever, and especially poetry, which I found out the hard way. Poetry is, if you want to, don't start writing poetry and thinking, I'm going to have a bestseller, because it's one of the hardest categories. So what are your thoughts on all this?
I think that the digital age is definitely making things convenient, but I feel like it also paralyzes people in a way. But I feel like people really want that hands-on experience. So even though we do always have our gadgets in our hands, people want to get their hands dirty and they want to have a connection to something. And that's why I really didn't always get into digital art. I liked getting my hands dirty, and I do, respect that field for what it is. But I think now people are feeling more alone and more disconnected than ever, even though we have so many ways to be connected. And I feel like environments where there is art, people can have that energy and share that energy with each other. I think it's a little bit impersonal when we're only communicating online, or we're only doing it through text. And I see that with younger generations too. They don't know how to build relationships with each other because they solely communicate through a device. And then when they're in front of each other, they don't know how to have that same connection. They're almost afraid to be as honest as they are behind the screen. So I think there's advantages and disadvantages, but I think deep down people really want to have a real relationship, and I think that sometimes technology doesn't help that.
Okay.
But, there's other cases where it can too.
Now, going along those lines, I just thought of another question where I've heard this said, especially about authors, where we live in the age where everybody can be an author now. Everybody can be an artist. Everyone can be a musician because we're in the age of the independence now. Basically. Do you feel that that's true? Because it's like with the authors, they said without going through a publishing house that there's less and less ways to define what's good and what isn't. Mm-hmm. But then I countered that argument with it's up to the individual person now to decide versus somebody who's getting paid to say, okay, well, this book's good, this book isn't. Which, do you have a personal opinion on either side, or are you kind of in the middle on it?
I think that I feel like there's always going to be that kind of battle between the majority and maybe the people that can make big decisions. It can come down to one person. Sometimes all you need is one person to say, hey, you're awesome. I think you need to do this more. And if you get enough followers, then people will know who you are. Can everybody be an artist? Yeah, I think everybody can be an artist. Some of them are going to suck. Some of them are going to be awesome. I think the art of it is really putting yourself out there, and the art of it is really not being afraid to fail. Basically taking the chances and going after your dreams. There's poets, but not all of them are performers. Right. And there's painters, but not all of them are showing their stuff. So, there's a lot of secret artists, too, that people don't know about. So I think I think the artists that we know are the ones that are putting themselves out there. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's just like we have to come up with another name for those people. Okay. Now we're going to close this out with, and this is, I don't care who I'm interviewing. This is the final question I always ask. Okay. Advice to other people out there, any age, obviously, your experience with children, people who are in their 50s and say, you know what, I've saved up enough money, whether it's opening their own bake shop, whether it's, okay, I've always played around with the guitar, always wanted to write that book, whether it's bestseller or not. Advice to people who, basically in general, as far as going after your dreams and going after what you are good at. This is always a question that really catches everybody off guard. Yeah, I feel like I'm just starting to see what my dream is and trying to follow it. But I would say to use your strengths, but focus on your weaknesses and make those better. And understand that people are going to say no to you and whatever you want to pursue. And that's part of the challenge. You can accomplish whatever you want to, and really it's just a matter of putting in the time and effort, even if it's high school. Anybody can graduate high school, you just have to keep going. Not everybody can graduate with those good grades, though. That's true, but... No, as far as, you have the kids, I was one of them where it was like I hit high school, it was like, all right, just coast, get this through, versus, okay, you know what,
I want to go into college. I want to do good in life. I want to do good in life. So it's I was talking from the aspect of the kids that put the effort into it versus the students that just, okay, let's get this over with. That's the aspect I was talking about, where I said, not everyone can get the good grades.
Yeah, I think I guess another piece of advice I would say is to not be afraid to ask for help. I think whether you're in the arts or in the sciences, whatever field you're interested in, you are not going to be able to accomplish your dream alone. You're going to have to humble yourself sometimes and, ask for help or ask for people's opinion, and just understand that the more support you have behind you, the higher up you're going to be. So always just be open to other people's ideas and, take it with a grain of salt. Use what you can, get rid of what you can't use. And don't burn bridges. I think, especially in the Valley, we're a small town, and I think we need change, but it's going to take time. So build relationships, don't burn them.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed it. We're relaxed and like the style that I use.
Yeah.
So I could just picture it getting stuck up there too. It's
definitely next
so,
time.
Yeah, but thank you very much for your time. I really enjoyed it.